The training hall stretched out like a metal cavern filled with the sounds of 100 different species preparing for combat. Maya walked through the crowd of alien recruits and felt their eyes following her every step. She was used to being the only human in most places, but this felt different somehow. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor as she moved past groups of tall blue-skinned Altarians who moved like dancers in crystalline Vorthek who sparkled under the bright lights. The Kelthans with their forearms gestured at each other in complex patterns while the massive Gorvani stood in small groups, discussing tactics in their rumbling voices. Maya found an empty spot near the wall and began her stretching routine. The simple movements of touching her toes and rolling her shoulders caused several nearby aliens to step back. She had learned not to take it personally, but it still stung a little. On Earth, she was considered small at 5 feet 6 inches, but here among these alien warriors, she felt like a child at a grown-up party commander. Thale entered the training hall, and the room fell silent. The Centauran officer had silver blue skin that seemed to glow under the lights and eyes that missed nothing. He had been training military recruits for over 30 years and had seen every species the galaxy had to offer fight except one. "Welcome to advanced combat training," he announced, and his voice carried easily across the large space. "Today you will learn the basics of close-quarters fighting. Remember that this is training, not actual combat. Control your strength and respect your partners." Maya nodded along with the others but noticed how the alien recruits all seemed to understand exactly what the commander meant. They had rules about fighting that went back thousands of years. Formal challenges and honorable combat and ways of showing respect to your opponent. Maya had read about these customs in her preparation materials, but they still seemed strange. To here on Earth, when someone tried to hurt you, there were no rules. You did whatever it took to survive and worry about honor later. The concept of pulling your punches or fighting with restraint was something humans had to learn, not something that came naturally. "We will begin with basic grappling techniques," Commander Thale continued. "Form pairs and practice the holds I demonstrate. Remember that the goal is to subdue your opponent without causing permanent damage." The aliens began pairing off naturally. The Altarians chose other Altarians, and the Vorthek paired with their own kind. Maya found herself standing alone as the groups formed around her. It was not unusual, but it still made her feel isolated. "The Deathworlder has no partner," rumbled a voice behind her. Maya turned to see Drac approaching. The Gorvani warrior stood nearly 8 feet tall with natural armor plating across his chest and arms. His skin was a deep gray color and his eyes were black as space. When he walked, the floor seemed to vibrate slightly under his massive weight. "I am Drac of the Gorvani Third Fleet," he said formally. "I will spar with you, human." Maya looked up at him and felt like she was staring up at a mountain. "I am Maya," she replied simply. "Thank you for volunteering." Drac made a sound that might have been laughter. "Do not thank me yet, Deathworlder. I have heard stories about your kind, but I think they are exaggerated. You look very small and fragile." Other recruits began gathering around them, drawn by the unusual pairing. Maya could hear their whispered conversations through the universal translators. Most of them were betting on how quickly Drac would defeat her. A few wondered if she would even try to fight back. Commander Thale demonstrated the first technique with another instructor. It was a simple arm lock designed to control an opponent without causing serious injury. The movements were slow and formal, with clear signals about when to apply pressure and when to release. "Your turn," Thale called out. "Remember to communicate with your partner. This is about learning, not winning." Maya faced Drac and raised her hands in the standard ready position. The Gorvani warrior copied her movements, but his massive hands could have wrapped around her entire head. She felt ridiculous trying to match his formal combat stance. "Begin," Thale commanded. Drac moved with surprising speed for his size, reaching for Maya's arm with textbook precision. She stepped back and to the side, letting his grab pass harmlessly by her shoulder. The watching aliens murmured appreciatively at her quick footwork. "Good evasion," Drac said approvingly. "But you cannot run forever," he tried again, this time feinting. "Left before grabbing right." Maya read the feint easily and slipped under his arm. She was now behind him and could have applied several different holds, but this was supposed to be a learning exercise, not a real fight. "You are quick," Drac admitted as he turned to face her again. "But speed will not help you when I get my hands on you." Maya noticed that more recruits were gathering to watch. Even some of the instructors had stopped what they were doing to observe the unusual match. She felt the weight of their expectations, and their doubts. Drac came at her again, this time using a more aggressive technique. His massive hands reached for her shoulders, intending to demonstrate the proper grip for a submission hold. Maya let him catch her right arm and watched his expression change to satisfaction. "Now you will learn proper technique," he said as he began to apply pressure to her shoulder joint. "On my world, we teach respect through—" Maya twisted her arm in a way that no Gorvani anatomy allowed and slipped free of his grip. Before Drac could react, she had stepped inside his reach and applied a gentle pressure to a nerve cluster just below his armpit. The 8-foot warrior made a surprise sound, and his left arm went completely numb. Maya stepped back and released the pressure, allowing feeling to return to his limb. "That was not the technique I demonstrated," Commander Thale said, but his voice carried curiosity rather than disapproval. "Sorry, sir," Maya replied. "Where I come from, we learn different ways of dealing with grabs." Drac flexed his arm and stared at her with new respect. "How did you do that?" he asked. "I felt nothing but pressure, and then my arm stopped working." "Nerve clusters," Maya explained. "Every species has them in slightly different places, but the principle is the same. Apply pressure to the right spot, and you can disrupt the signals from the brain to the muscles." The watching aliens exchanged glances. This was not the kind of combat they had been taught. There were no formal positions or honorable techniques. The human had simply found a weakness and exploited it with surgical precision. "Show me again," Drac requested. "I want to understand this technique." Maya hesitated. The truth was that what she had done was not really a technique at all. It was an instinctive response to being grabbed that had been drilled into her since childhood. On Earth, when someone grabbed you, it usually meant they were trying to hurt you, and you responded accordingly. "It is not really something you can learn quickly," she said carefully. "It takes years of practice to find the right pressure points and know how much force to apply." Commander Thale stepped forward. "Perhaps you could demonstrate on a volunteer," he suggested. "The class would benefit from seeing different combat approaches." Maya looked around at the eager faces of her fellow recruits. They were all warriors from proud military traditions. They had trained for years in formal combat techniques and understood the rules of honorable fighting. What she knew was different. It was about survival, not honor. "I am not sure that would be appropriate, sir," she said. "My training was more about ending fights quickly than teaching proper technique." "All the more reason to share it," Thal replied. "In real combat, there are no rules. These recruits need to understand that." Maya nodded reluctantly and looked around for a volunteer. Several hands went up, but her eyes settled on a young Altarian named Vel who stood about her own height. At least with him she would not have to worry about accidentally causing serious injury. "Very well," she said. "But please remember that this is not traditional combat training. Where I come from, we do not fight for honor or sport. We fight to survive." Vel stepped forward with the confident grace that all Altarians possessed. His blue skin seemed to shimmer as he moved, and his 4 arms positioned themselves in a complex defensive pattern that looked like art as much as combat. The other recruits formed a circle around them, and Maya could feel their excitement. "I am ready," Vel announced in his musical voice. "Please show us your Deathworld techniques." Maya felt uncomfortable with the way he said it. Deathworld techniques sounded like something from an action movie, not the practical fighting skills she had learned growing up. But she nodded and took a basic stance. "This is a simple restraint hold," she explained. "In a real situation, you would use it to stop someone from attacking you or others. The goal is to end the conflict as quickly as possible." Vel smiled and raised his arms in a traditional Altarian guard position. His people had developed their fighting style over thousands of years of ritual combat. Every move was precise and beautiful, and designed to show skill rather than cause harm. Begin when ready, Commander Thale called out. Maya moved forward slowly, at first letting Vel see her approach. He responded with a flowing defensive movement. It was genuinely impressive to watch. His forearms created a shifting barrier that would have been nearly impossible to penetrate, using traditional techniques, but Maya was not using traditional techniques. She ducked low and stepped inside his guard, moving faster than she had during the earlier demonstration. Her hands found the pressure points on his neck and applied. Gentle but firm pressure. Vel's eyes widened in surprise and then closed as he slumped forward. Maya caught him and lowered him gently to the ground. The entire exchange had taken less than 3 seconds. The silence in the training hall was deafening. Maya looked around at the shocked faces of her fellow recruits and realized she had made a serious mistake. What seemed like a simple restraint hold to her looked like an assassination attempt to them. "Is he dead?" whispered a Vorthak whose crystalline body was flickering with alarmed colors. "No," Maya said quickly. "He is just unconscious. He will wake up in a few minutes with no permanent damage." Commander Thale knelt beside Vel and checked his pulse. The Altarian's breathing was steady and his color was returning to normal. "Explain what you did," Thale said without looking up. Maya felt every eye in the room focused on her. "I applied pressure to the carotid arteries," she said. "It cuts off blood flow to the brain temporarily. It is a non-lethal way to stop someone quickly." Non-lethal. Drac repeated the words like they tasted bad. "You attacked his breathing without warning. There was no challenge, no formal engagement. You simply struck like a predator." The other recruits began murmuring agreement. Maya could hear words like savage and dishonorable being whispered around the circle. She had tried to be helpful, but instead had confirmed their worst fears about humans. "On my world, we do not always have time for formal challenges," she said defensively. "When someone is trying to hurt you or someone you care about, you stop them as quickly as possible. But how do you know if they are truly trying to hurt you?" asked a Kalthani recruit. "Without proper challenges and formal combat, how can you tell the difference between a real threat and a training exercise?" Maya stared at him in confusion. "If someone is close enough to hurt you, then you have to assume they mean to do it," she said. "Waiting to find out their intentions could get you killed." Vel stirred and opened his eyes. Maya helped him sit up and he looked around with obvious confusion. "What happened?" he asked. "I remember starting to fight and then everything went dark. The human used a pressure point attack," Drac explained. "She cut off blood to your brain to make you unconscious." Vel looked at Maya with a mixture of fear and fascination. "I felt no pain," he said. "One moment I was defending myself and the next I was on the ground." "How is that possible?" "Practice," Maya said simply. "On Earth, children learn these techniques in school. We call it self-defense." "Children," another recruit breathed. "You teach children to fight like assassins." Maya felt her temper rising. "We teach children to protect themselves," she said firmly. "Earth is not like your worlds. We have predators that can kill a human in seconds. We have weather that can freeze you solid or burn you alive. We have natural disasters that can destroy entire cities. Children who cannot defend themselves do not survive to become adults." The silence returned and Maya could see the calculations happening behind their eyes. They were beginning to understand that humans came from a world where everything was trying to kill them and they had adapted accordingly. Commander Thale stood up and helped Vel to his feet. "The human has demonstrated a valid combat technique," he announced. "Different species have different approaches to conflict resolution. There is no single correct way to fight," but Maya could see that his words were not convincing the other recruits. They had grown up in civilizations where violence was regulated and controlled. The idea of fighting without rules or honor was foreign to them. "Perhaps we should move on to the next exercise," Thale suggested. "Pair up and practice the joint locks I demonstrated earlier." The recruits began forming pairs again, but Maya noticed that no one approached her. Even Vel, who had been friendly before, seemed reluctant to train with her again. She found herself standing alone in the center of the training hall. "I will spar with the human again," Drac announced. "But this time I want to understand her techniques better." Maya looked up at the massive Gorvani warrior. Are you sure? She asked. I do not want to hurt you. Drac made that sound that might have been laughter again. I am a Gorvani warrior, he said proudly. We are the strongest species in the galaxy. I do not think you could hurt me even if you tried. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard that tone before from bullies and predators on Earth. It was the sound of someone who thought they were untouchable. Those people usually learned painful lessons about underestimating others. Very well, she said quietly. But remember that you asked for this. They faced each other in the center of the circle. Drac towered over her with his massive frame and natural armor plating. Maya looked like a child next to him, and several recruits made quiet comments about the mismatch. This time I will show you proper Gorvani combat technique, Drac announced. We do not attack without warning like cowards. We announce our intentions and give our opponent a chance to prepare. Maya nodded, but her muscles were already tensing. Something in his tone suggested that this would not be a simple training exercise. He was angry about her earlier display and wanted to prove that human techniques were inferior to his own. I will demonstrate the Gorvani dominance hold, Drac continued. This is how warriors of my people establish hierarchy. You will learn to show proper respect. Maya felt her heart rate increase. On Earth, when someone talked about establishing dominance, it usually meant they were about to try to hurt you. She forced herself to remain calm and remember where she was. Begin, Commander Thale called out. Drac moved forward with ponderous confidence. His massive hands reached for her shoulders, intending to demonstrate his superior strength. Maya watched him approach and realized that he was not treating this as a training exercise at all. He was trying to teach her a lesson about knowing her place in the hierarchy. Drac moved with deliberate slowness, as if he wanted everyone to see what he was doing. His massive hands reached toward Maya's shoulders, and she could see the confidence in his black eyes. This was not about training anymore. This was about putting the small human in her place. The dominance hold is sacred to my people, he announced as his hands moved closer. It shows who is the stronger warrior and who must submit to their betters. You will learn respect, Deathworlder. Maya stood perfectly still as his hands closed on her shoulders. She could feel the incredible strength in his grip and knew that he could crush her bones without effort. But she also noticed something else. Drac was being gentle. He was trying to intimidate her, not actually hurt her. You see, he said to the watching crowd, when a superior warrior demonstrates dominance, the inferior one submits. This is the natural order of things. The other recruits nodded in understanding. This was how their cultures worked. Hierarchy was established through displays of strength, and the weaker party accepted their place gracefully. It was civilized and orderly and completely different from anything Maya had experienced. Now you will acknowledge my superiority, Drac continued. Say that you submit to the stronger warrior. Maya looked up at him with calm eyes. Is that what you think is happening here? She asked quietly. Something in her tone made Drac hesitate. He had expected fear or anger or submission. Instead, the human seemed almost amused. You should be afraid, he said. I could break you in half. Yes, Maya agreed. You could. But you won't. How can you be so certain? Drac demanded. His grip tightened slightly, and Maya felt the pressure increase on her shoulders. Because we are in a training hall surrounded by instructors and other recruits, she said calmly. Because this is supposed to be a learning exercise, not a real fight. Because despite your size and strength, you are not actually trying to hurt me? Drac's expression shifted from confidence to confusion. You are not afraid, he said. It was not a question, should I be? Maya asked. You are bigger and stronger than me. Your people are famous warriors. But you are also following rules that prevent you from actually using that strength to cause harm. The watching recruits began murmuring among themselves. This was not how the demonstration was supposed to go. The humans should have submitted by now, or at least shown some sign of being intimidated. What if there were no rules? Drac asked. What if this was real combat instead of training? Maya's expression did not change. Then we would not be having this conversation, she said simply. Explain, Drac demanded. Because one of us would already be dead, Maya replied. Real combat is not about establishing dominance or showing respect. It is about survival. Everything else is just ceremony. Commander Thale stepped forward with a concerned expression. That is enough, he said. Release her, Drac. The demonstration is over, but Drac did not release her. His pride was wounded and he wanted to prove his point. Not yet, he said. She needs to understand how things work among proper warriors. His grip shifted from her shoulders to her neck. Maya felt his massive hand close around her throat, and every instinct she had ever developed screamed at her to react. On Earth, when someone grabbed your neck, it meant they were trying to kill you. This is the true dominance hold, Drac announced. When a warrior controls your breathing, you have no choice but to submit. Maya felt the pressure increase slightly. Not enough, too. Actually cut off her air, but enough to make his point clear. She could hear the other recruits talking excitedly about the demonstration. They thought this was still part of the training, but Maya knew better. The moment Drac's hand closed around her neck, the training exercise had ended and something much more dangerous had begun. Her body was already moving before her conscious mind made the decision. She twisted her head slightly to relieve the pressure on her windpipe and brought her right hand up to grasp Drac's wrist. Her left hand found the pressure point just below his elbow and applied firm pressure at Drac's. Eyes widened in surprise as his grip loosened involuntarily. Maya used the moment to step back and pivot, changing the angle of his hold. Her right hand slid down his arm and found the nerve cluster at his shoulder. What are you doing? Drac demanded, but his voice sounded strange. His right arm was starting to go numb, showing you what happens when someone grabs my neck, Maya replied. Her voice was calm, but there was something deadly in her tone that made the watching recruits step back. She increased the pressure on his shoulder, and Drac made a sound, like air escaping from a balloon. His massive frame began to lean forward as the strength went out of his legs. Stop, he said, but it came out as a whisper. I cannot feel my arm. Maya adjusted her grip and found another pressure point. Drac's left arm joined his right in complete numbness. He was still standing, but barely, and his expression had changed from confidence to fear. On my world, Maya said conversationally, when someone grabs your neck, you assume they are trying to kill you, and you respond with everything you have to make sure they do not succeed. Commander Thale was moving toward them, but Maya was not finished. She wanted to make sure Drac understood the lesson completely. You are bigger and stronger than me, she continued. But size and strength do not matter. If you cannot use them, your people fight with honor and ceremony. My people fight to survive. Drac tried to speak, but only managed a weak cough. Both of his arms hung uselessly at his sides, and his legs were beginning to shake. Maya was supporting most of his weight with her grip on his pressure points. Please, he managed to whisper. I submit. I was wrong. Maya looked into his eyes and saw genuine fear there. She had made her point, but she also realized that she had gone too far. This was supposed to be a training exercise, not a real fight. She had let her instincts take over, and now everyone in the room was staring at her like she was some kind of monster. She released the pressure points and stepped back. Drac collapsed to his knees and then forward onto his hands. Feeling slowly returned to his arms, and he flexed his fingers experimentally. That was not a training technique. Commander Thale sighed quietly. That was a combat assault. Maya looked around at the shocked faces of her fellow recruits. They had wanted to see what a Deathworlder could do, and she had shown them. But now they were all afraid of her. You are right, sir, she said. I am sorry. When someone grabs my neck, I react without thinking. It is not something I can control easily. Drac struggled to his feet with help from two other Gorvani recruits. His black eyes were focused on Maya with new understanding. I underestimated you, he said. I thought your reputation was exaggerated. I was wrong. Maya nodded, but she felt no satisfaction in being right. She had wanted to fit in with the other recruits and learn their ways. Instead, she had confirmed their worst fears about Human's commander. Thale dismissed the class early, and the recruits filed out in small groups. Maya could hear them talking about what they had witnessed, and none of it sounded complimentary. She was left alone in the training hall with Drac, who was still recovering from his encounter with human pressure point techniques. Commander Thale dismissed his security detail with a gesture and approached Maya and Drac. The training hall had emptied quickly after the demonstration, and the silence felt heavy with unspoken consequences. Maya stood with her arms at her sides, waiting for whatever punishment was coming. Medical team is on the way, Fail announced. Drac, you need to be checked for nerve damage. Maya, you need to explain what just happened. Drac was sitting on the floor, flexing his fingers and testing his grip strength. I can feel everything now, he said. But for a moment I thought she had permanently damaged something important. She could have, Fail replied grimly. Those pressure points you hit, Maya, they could cause lasting injury if applied incorrectly. Where did you learn techniques like that? Maya looked down at her hands as if seeing them for the first time. Every human child learns basic self-defense, she said. We start when we are 5 or 6 years old. By the time we are adults, these reactions are automatic self-defense, Thao repeated. Is that what you call it when you disable a larger opponent? In seconds, yes, sir, Maya said simply. On Earth, we have many predators that are bigger and stronger than humans. We learn to survive by being smarter and faster. We target weak points and end fights quickly. The medical team arrived and began examining Drac. Their scanners showed no permanent damage, but they recommended rest and observation. As they worked, Maya found herself thinking about the gulf between human and alien cultures. I did not mean to hurt him, she said quietly. But when he grabbed my neck, everything changed. It was not training anymore. It was survival, Commander Thale studied her with his sharp eyes. Explain that, he said. What made you think it was no longer training? Maya thought about how to put it into words. In human culture, grabbing someone's neck is an act of aggression. It means you are trying to kill them or at least harm them seriously. There is no ceremonial or cultural meaning to it. It is pure violence. But Drac was demonstrating his species' traditional dominance ritual, Thale pointed out. He was not trying to hurt you. I understand that now, Maya said. But my body reacted before my mind could process the cultural difference. When someone grabs my neck, I have maybe 2 seconds to respond before they can crush my windpipe or break my spine. There is no time to think about their intentions. Drac looked up from where the medics were examining him. Your world made you this way, he said. You are a weapon that walks like a person. Maya felt the words hit her like a physical blow. I am not a weapon, she said. I am just trying to survive in a universe that wants to kill me. Are you, though? Thale asked. From what I observed, you were never in real danger. Drac was following his cultural protocols. He was not trying to harm you, but you responded as if your life was in immediate danger. Maya considered this. Maybe that is true, she admitted. But how can I tell the difference? On Earth we have a saying. It is better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. It means that it is better to face consequences for defending yourself than to die because you hesitated. The medical team finished their examination and cleared Drac for light duty. He stood up slowly and tested his range of motion. I will recover, he announced. But I have learned something important today. What is that? Thale asked. The humans are not like us, Drac said. We think of combat as ritual and ceremony. They think of it as life or death. There is no middle ground for them. Maya wanted to protest, but she realized he was right. Every human she knew approached conflict with the assumption that their life was on the line. It was how they had survived on a world full of things that wanted to eat them. This creates a problem, Thale said. You are all going to be serving together on mixed species crews. If the humans cannot distinguish between training and real combat, then someone is going to get seriously hurt. Maybe the problem is not with the humans, Drac said thoughtfully. Maybe the problem is that the rest of us do not understand what real combat looks like. Thale raised an eyebrow. Explain, think about it, Drac continued. We have all been raised in civilizations where violence is controlled and regulated. We fight according to rules and traditions. But what happens when we face an enemy that does not follow our rules? Maya felt a chill as she realized where his logic was leading. You are talking about the Devourers, she said quietly. The Devourers were a species that had been attacking the outer colonies for months. They showed no interest in negotiation or surrender. They simply consumed everything in their path and moved on to the next target. Standard military tactics had proven useless against them. Exactly, Drax said. When we fight the Devourers, there are no rules. No honor, no ceremony, just kill or be killed. Maybe we need to learn how to fight like the humans do, Commander Thale was quiet for a long moment. That is a dangerous line of thinking, he said finally. If we abandon our principles, what makes us different from the Devourers? Survival, Maya said simply. The difference is that we want to live and protect the people we care about. They just want to destroy. That is worth fighting for, even if it means getting our hands dirty. The three of them stood in silence for a while, thinking about the implications. Maya could see that she had started something that would have consequences far beyond a simple training exercise. I need to file a report about this incident, Thale said. Maya, you will be restricted to supervised training until further notice. Drac, you will report to Medical Daily for the next week to monitor your recovery. Yes, sir, they both replied as Thale walked away. Maya found herself alone with Drac. The massive Gorvani warrior looked at her with an expression she could not read. I owe you an apology, he said formally. I acted with ignorance and arrogance. I thought I knew what combat was, but I was wrong. Maya shook her head. You acted according to your culture, she said. That is not wrong. It is just different from mine, different enough to nearly cost me my life, Drac replied. I have been reading about your homeworld since we first met. The extinction events, the predator species, the survival rates. How did your people survive? Maya thought about the question. We adapted, she said finally. We learned to use tools and work together. We learned to be more dangerous than the things trying to kill us. We learned never to give up. And now you bring those lessons to the galaxy, Drax said. Whether we want them or not, Maya looked at him sharply. What do you mean? I mean that your people are changing everything, Drac explained. Before humans joined, the galactic community, warfare was civilized. Now we are learning that civilization is a luxury we might not be able to afford. Maya felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. I never wanted to change anything, she said. I just wanted to serve and protect people. Sometimes those are the same thing, Drac replied. Come on, let me buy you a drink and you can tell me more about these pressure points. I think I need to understand my new ally better. As they walked toward the recreation area, Maya realized that something fundamental had shifted. The other species were beginning to understand that humans were not just another member of the galactic community. They were something different. Something that might be necessary for their survival. The next morning, Maya arrived at the training hall to find it completely different from the day before. The other recruits were already there, but instead of avoiding her, they watched her with intense curiosity. She could see datapads in their hands and recognized the logos of various military databases. They have been researching Earth all night, Drac explained as he approached her. His right arm was still in a support brace, but he moved with more confidence than before. Once word spread about what happened, everyone wanted to know more about Deathworld combat techniques. Maya looked around at the assembled aliens and felt uncomfortable with their attention. What did they find? She asked. Survival rates, replied Vel, who had recovered completely from his encounter with her pressure point techniques. Population density charts. Predator-to-prey ratios. Environmental hazard statistics. Your world is terrifying. A young Kalthani named Kip approached with his datapad extended. Is it true that humans evolved from persistence hunters? He asked. The reports say your ancestors could chase prey for days without stopping. Maya nodded. Slowly. Some of our ancestors did that, she confirmed. We would follow herds until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. It was not glamorous, but it worked. And you still carry those genes, Kip continued excitedly. The reports say humans can run farther and longer than any other known species. Is that why you move so efficiently in combat? Before Maya could answer, Commander Thale entered the training hall. He carried himself differently today, and Maya noticed that his usual calm demeanor seemed strained. Behind him walked several senior officers she did not recognize. Attention, Thale called out, and the recruits immediately formed ranks. We have visitors today. Admiral Kess and General Vorn have come to observe our training. Maya felt her stomach drop. She recognized those names from the military briefings. Admiral Kess commanded the Third Fleet and General Vorn was in charge of special operations. They were not the kind of officers who visited routine training exercises. Yesterday we had an incident during combat training, Theo continued. A human recruit demonstrated techniques that have attracted attention from the highest levels of command. Today, we will be conducting a comprehensive evaluation of human combat capabilities. The alien recruits exchanged glances. Maya realized that her encounter with Drac had started something much bigger than a simple training accident. The military leadership wanted to know what humans could do in combat. Recruit Maya stepped forward, Admiral Kess commanded. She was a tall Centaurian with silver hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. You will demonstrate the techniques you used yesterday. Maya stepped out of ranks and stood at attention. Yes, sir, she replied. What would you like me to demonstrate? Everything, General Vorn said simply. He was a Gorvani like Drac, but older and more scarred. We want to see what makes Deathworld combat so effective. Maya felt the weight of expectation from everyone in the room. Sir, I need to point out that what I did yesterday was not really technique, it was instinct. When someone grabbed my neck, I reacted without thinking. Instinct based on years of training, Admiral Kess observed. Show us what that training involved. For the next hour, Maya demonstrated everything she had learned growing up on Earth. Basic self-defense moves that every human child knew. Pressure point techniques that could disable opponents without permanent damage. Wrestling holds that used leverage instead of strength. Strike combinations that targeted weak points for maximum effect. The alien officers watched in fascination as she explained the principles behind each technique. How to use an attacker's momentum against them. How to escape from various grabs and holds. How to end a fight as quickly as possible with minimal energy expenditure. This is not combat, General Vorn said when she finished. This is systematic problem solving. You approach violence like engineers approach mechanical failures. Maya thought about that. I suppose that is accurate, she said. We see combat as a problem that needs to be solved efficiently. The goal is to neutralize the threat and survive. Everything else is secondary, and this is standard training for all humans. Admiral Kess asked, basic self-defense is taught in schools, Maya confirmed. Most humans learn more advanced techniques as they grow older. We have martial arts and combat, sports and military training. By adulthood, most of us know how to defend ourselves. The two senior officers exchanged a look that Maya could not interpret. Recruit Maya, you are hereby transferred to the Advanced Combat Development Program, Admiral Kess announced. You will be working with our best tactical analysts to develop new training protocols. Maya felt her heart sink. Sir, I just wanted to serve as a regular soldier. I do not want to be treated differently because I am human. You are going to be treated differently because you are effective, General Vorn replied. The galaxy is changing. Recruit. The old ways of warfare are becoming obsolete. We need to adapt or we will not survive. As the senior officers left, Maya found herself surrounded by her fellow recruits. They had questions about human combat techniques and wanted to know if she could teach them. The fear and disgust from the day before had been replaced by curiosity and respect. Will you show us how to do what you did to Drac? Kip asked. I want to learn these pressure point techniques. Maya looked around at their eager faces. It is not something you can learn quickly, she warned. It takes years of practice and you need to understand anatomy and nerve structures. One mistake could cause permanent damage. Then teach us slowly, Vel suggested. We have time to learn. Maya realized that something fundamental had changed in the last 24 hours. The other species were beginning to understand that humans brought something unique to the galaxy. Not just advanced technology or superior numbers, but a completely different way of thinking about survival. I can teach you basic principles, she said carefully. But you need to understand that these techniques are not games. They are tools for survival. Use them wrongly and you could hurt someone badly. We understand, Drac said. But we also understand that the galaxy is becoming more dangerous. The Devourers are not the only threat out there. We need to be prepared for enemies that do not follow our rules. Maya nodded slowly. Then we will start with the basics, she said. But first, you need to understand something important. These techniques work because they are based on the assumption that you are fighting for your life. If you cannot accept that assumption, then you will never be able to use them effectively. The recruits agreed, and Maya began teaching them the fundamentals of human combat philosophy. How to assess threats quickly, how to respond with appropriate force, how to end conflicts before they escalated beyond control. As the days passed, word spread throughout the academy about the human instructor who was teaching Deathworld combat techniques. More recruits requested transfer to her classes. Senior officers visited to observe the training. Military analysts studied the effectiveness of human tactical approaches. Maya found herself at the center of a revolution in galactic military thinking. The old formal combat styles were being supplemented with human pragmatism. The result was a new generation of warriors who understood that survival was more important than honor, but she also noticed something else. The other species were not just learning her techniques. They were adapting them to their own capabilities and cultures. The Altarians incorporated human pressure point strikes into their graceful fighting style. The Gorvani learned to use their massive strength more precisely. The Kelthani discovered that their multiple limbs gave them advantages in human style. Grappling, you have changed us, Drac told her one evening as they practiced together. We are not the same species we were before we met you. Maya watched him execute a perfect joint lock technique that would have been impossible for a human to perform. Maybe that is good, she said. Maybe we are all becoming something better, or something more dangerous, Drac replied. I am not sure there is a difference anymore. Maya thought about the Devourers and the other threats facing the galaxy. There might not be, she admitted. But at least now we have a chance to survive them. As she looked around at her fellow recruits practicing human combat techniques with alien variations, she realized that the galaxy was indeed changing. Humanity had brought more than just new technology or different perspectives. They had brought the hard-won wisdom of a species that had learned to survive on a world that wanted to kill them, and now that wisdom was spreading to every corner of known space, creating a new generation of warriors who understood that sometimes the only way to preserve civilization was to be willing to fight like savages.